Hey everyone, welcome back to another SwiftUI tutorial. Today we're going to be exploring photos and the camera. I'll show you how to add the photos library to your app where the users can select images that they've taken and add them, and also how to use the camera. So let's go ahead and dive on in. I'm going to make a new Xcode project. Make sure we're on iOS app template here. And next, we'll call this one cameras example. I'm going to make sure my interface is on SwiftUI and my language is on Swift. Pretty standard stuff there. Don't need a testing system or storage setup. Before we start writing code, we actually want to go to our kind of project file here. It should be called whatever your project name is. Kind of looks like it has this blue app store icon next to it. And if you click on the targets here, so under project, there's targets, you should be able to go to this info tab. And this is essentially where your info.plist is. You can add different properties here. So if you just click on any one of these with the plus button here, we can add our privacy. So if we want to be accessing the user's photo library, we can scroll for a little bit here. We have the photo library additions usage description. So if you're going to be adding photos to the user's library, you need to get permission and tell them why, as well as the photo library usage description. So let's go ahead and use this one today. And under this value, this is where we can include the message to the user. So we can say, we need to access your photos to add them to our app. Cool. And we can also add one for camera. So press the plus button. We'll also do privacy, and then we'll do camera usage description. We need to take photos to add to our app. Okay, enter there. If you want to access the info.plist itself for whatever reason, you can go down here to the URL types and press the plus button. This is what I do in some of my projects. And then you can see how it normally is over here. This is kind of just like a reference, but anything you add will still be relevant. You can also right click on the info in the project navigator, open as source code. So if you want to add your keys this way, you totally can still. Okay, let's hop into our content view here. And what we need to do is to access the Photos UI for using the photo library. Under our importing of SwiftUI, it will say import, then capital P, Photos UI. So under our structure of content view, we're going to create two state private variables. And this first one's going to be a selected item. So that's going to hold the selected photo from the photo library. And then we're going to create another one for selected image, which is going to hold the loaded image. So we're going to call this one selected item. And we're going to have this be a photos picker item. We're going to add our question mark at the end there. So this holds the selected photo item. We'll create one more state private var. We'll call this one selected image. And this is going to reference a UI image. We're also going to use our question mark here. So this holds the loaded image. Amazing. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of our placeholders here. So I'm going to get rid of that globe and hello world. And we're going to create an if-let statement. So we want to essentially display the selected image or placeholder within this kind of VStack here. So if-let selected image equals selected image. We're going to add our brace, and we're going to say image with a capital I, and then within our brackets, lowercase UI, the capital I image. You can see on our autofill, this is the option here. And we're just going to reference our selected image one more time. Then after the brackets, we can add our properties. So if you want to make it resizable, scale to fit, if you want to add like your own aspect ratio and things like that, this is how you can change how you're displaying the image to the user. So for this one, I'm going to add a frame with a height 300. And then fans of the channel know I love a good corner radius moment. All right, and then after our brace here, after the if let, we're going to add an else. And then we're going to add some text that's basically going to say, hey, no image selected. If you want to make it with our foreground style, we can make it red or maybe even gray, just to be like, hey, you know, user, you haven't selected anything. I think I'm going to go with gray. The red seems a little like aggressive. and we add some padding as well. All right, after that, let's go ahead and now add a button for our photos picker. So it's photo picker. So we're going to say photos picker, and you can see that we're just going to use the first option here. I'm not going to use the autofill. There is a ton of different options here, and if you want to use the autofill to kind of explore it, feel free to do so. But essentially, I'm just going to be adding a selection. And this is going to be our binding of the selected item. I'm going to make a little bit of space here so it's easier for us to read. And I can add some comments too. So this is going to bind to the selected item. Then we're going to have matching. But we do need to separate these by a comma before I forget. So in the matching, this is where we can choose what we want. If I only want images, I'm going to do dot images, right? I only want photos for this application. So this is going to show only images. And then after that, we're going to say photo library. We're going to do dot shared. All right, we do have an error, but we will be fixing that a little bit later on. Let's go ahead and now after the argument, we'll add a brace here because we're kind of creating our own button. We're going to create some text. And we'll say select photo. We can add some font, make a headline, add some padding, kind of style is how we want. I'm going to add a frame, and I'll do max width, infinity, make it kind of go to the side of the screen. We can add a background. Say this is color dot purple. We're definitely going to have to change the foreground style because now it's not readable, and we'll do dot white. That looks nice. And then we can add some corner radius as well. All right, let's go ahead and select our photo. So we have like the normal photo library that you might have seen before. We have photos, we have collections. We can even select any one of these. You notice it has not been passed just yet, but it's going to show you the UI that we've been adding. So after the text here, I'm going to add a dot on change. I'm going to say of, and then we're going to have an action here. So that is the selected item. We're going to add a brace, and we're going to say new item in. This is where we're going to handle the selected item. So we'll say if let new item. So we're going to add if let new item equals new item. And add another brace here. Then we're going to add a task. And then one more brace. Okay. So within this kind of task here, I'll scroll down so it's a little bit easier to see. We're going to essentially grab that new image, and then we're going to update that selected image, which should reflect on the UI. So if let data equals try question mark await new item, capital I there, dot load transferable. I'm going to just use the auto completion here. Then within the brackets, type, and then we're going to say data with a capital D dot self. Then we're going to add a comma. And I'm just going to hit return to make a little bit more space. We'll say let image equals UI image. So that's the one with the capital UI and the I for image. And we're going to add some brackets. And then here we're going to say lowercase data, not date, data. We're going to add a colon and then lowercase data one more time. Then we're going to add a brace. Selected image equals image. The lowercase I. So this is going to update the selected image. Alrighty, let's go ahead and see this in real time. So we should be able to press this button. Let's select the waterfall, and you can see that our app has now added that waterfall to the view. What happens if we try to pick another one? It's going to update accordingly. You can even see some of these photos are kind of oriented a little bit differently. Like this one on the top right is more of a portrait, whereas the other ones seem to be more like landscapey. All right, so that is our photo library. Now, how about if we want to add a camera? So what we need to do is we actually need to create a new Swift view. Before we do that, I'm going to go up to the top of our project here, and I'm going to add @state private variable, and we're going to call this one showing camera. And this is going to be set initially to false. So this is going to control camera sheet visibility. We can also add a button. So what we're going to do is above our photo picker button, we're going to create a button. We'll add an action here, space, add a brace, and then we're going to say showing camera equals true. So this is going to show the camera view. We can add any customization here as well. So if we want to add some text, we can say this one, take photo. And you know what? Let's work smarter, not harder. We can just copy and paste all this here. And then maybe we'll give it a different color instead of purple. Let's have it be maybe yellow. And then the foreground color we can be black, like a bumblebee. Then at the end of our button, we're going to add a dot sheet. And then we're going to have is presented, colon, and we're going to use our binding variable here of showing camera. We're going to add a brace here, and we're going to reference camera view. All right, let's go ahead and create the camera view. So you can either create a new file, so if you right click new empty file, or if you want to, new file from template, Swift file, let's call it camera view. So something I'd recommend with the camera view is I would create this, and anytime in any other app you need to use the camera, I would just steal this Swift file and copy and paste it into another project. It's actually quite annoying, in my opinion, to add the camera functionality because we actually have to use UIKit. I was asking a colleague the other day, hey, is there an easier way that I'm just not aware of? And they're basically like, nope. So let's learn how to add the camera view. I'm going to do my best to explain everything that's required, but again, once you kind of have this down pat, I would then just share this with other projects. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my imports. So I'm going to add both SwiftUI. I'm also going to import UIKit. Don't worry, we're not going to be doing any storyboarding here today. So we're going to create a new structure, and we're going to call it CameraView. Then we're going to have this conform to the UIViewControllerRepresentable. That's a pretty long one. I would definitely use the autofill feature there, or you can take a second pause and copy what's on my screen. Next, we're going to add a binding variable. So @binding, capital B variable, and then we'll do image, and this is going to be a UI image. And we're going to add our question mark here. So this is going to bind to the parent use state. Then add environment. Then we're going to do a bracket, and within that bracket we're going to have a / dot presentation mode. And outside those brackets we're going to have a variable that is called presentation mode. And this is going to dismiss the view when. So you're going to notice that we do have an error up here, and we can add these stubs for conformance here if we really want. However, I think it's a better idea to kind of code everything. And again, once you create this, you don't have to create it again, but it's also important to know what everything does. So we're going to be adding quite a few functions and a class. So the first function we're going to be adding, so we're going to use the func keyword, is make UIViewController, and we're going to add the context. I'm going to go ahead and hit the autofill there. It knows exactly what to do. So we're going to add some things here. The first is let picker equals UI image picker controller. We're going to add empty brackets there. So this is going to create the camera picker. I would also, if you're copying this, you can also add the comments to give yourself a little bit of guidance for next time. And we'll do picker.delegate equals context.coordinator. People have told me I say coordinator very interestingly, apparently. So this is going to set the coordinator as delegate. And then we'll do picker dot source type equals dot camera. This is going to set the source to the camera, which would be so great if we just had a button that was just like .camera and it brings up the camera. Maybe in the future SwiftUI, Swift update, I don't know. Oh, I am going to make a change from my autofill here. So instead of returning some view controller, I'm actually going to set this to be UI image picker controller instead. And that should fix some of these errors. Okay, cool. Well, let's keep going. There's going to be a few errors until we're actually completely done adding all the different functions. And the next function we're adding is just going to be an empty function. So we're going to say update UIViewController. Then we're going to have the autofill once again, so underscore UIViewController, :UIImagePickerController, context. And we're actually going to just put no updates needed under here. Then we're going to create a function. We're going to call it make coordinator. You can see a lot of these are already like built-in functions, and your autofill will be your best friend for this one. And here we're going to actually, instead of returning an empty bracket, we're going to return coordinator with a capital C. And within the code, we're going to say coordinator, capital C again, and then in brackets, we're going to just reference lowercase self. All right, now we're going to make that coordinator class. So after this function, go ahead and create a class using the class keyword, coordinator with a capital C. And this is going to be an NS object. Then we're going to use a comma, UI navigation controller delegate. Use the autofill feature here. Trust me. UI image picker controller delegate. Yeah, these are some really, really long words. Okay, now we're ready to add our brace and add some space. We're going to say let parent :CameraView. Then we're going to initialize with the init keywords. We're going to add bracket underscore space parent, then :CameraView. Add a brace self dot parent equals parent. Then we're going to go ahead and add a function. So after the initializer, make sure you're still within the class here. You're going to add functions, func image picker controller. And then we're going to, within the brackets, do underscore picker :UI image picker controller, comma, did finish picking media with info. So this one's written out like camel case, so lowercase d, then capital F on finish, and so on and so forth. We're going to do space lowercase info : then we're going to add our square brackets like if we're adding an array, capital UI image picker controller dot info key : capital A any, add a brace, hit return, make some space. This is why I suggest kind of setting this thing up once, because doing this every time is very confusing. It's very also easy to miss out on a step. Now within these brackets, we're going to add if let image equals, we'll do lowercase I info. We're going to add our square brackets once more, dot original image with a capital I, outside of these square brackets as with a question mark, UI image. Add a brace, and we're going to say parent.image equals image. So this is going to pass the selected image to the parent. Outside of this brace here, we're going to hit return, and we're going to say parent dot presentation mode dot wrapped value dot dismiss. So this is going to dismiss the picker. Okay, and now after the next bracket, while still remaining within our class, you can see on line 45 I have a gap here. We're going to add a new function. It's going to be image picker controller did cancel I'm going to go ahead and use my autofill. So we have within the brackets _picker : UI image picker controller. Code, we're going to have parent dot presentation mode dot wrapped value dot dismiss. So this is essentially going to dismiss on cancel. All right, I believe we're getting an error. So under our function make UIViewController, we need to return. So here we're just going to say return picker. All right, and now we should be good to go. So I really recommend doing this, and what you can actually do is you can copy this, right? You can show in Finder. I would like copy this camera view, put it somewhere safe so you can grab it the next time you need to add a camera to your app, because it is tedious. Let's hop back over to our camera view, and you can see that we're missing a binding variable. So it's saying we need to insert the binding for the image, so you can press the fix here. Otherwise, you can type image : and then we're going to reference our selected image. So I'm going to use $selected image. All right, let's go ahead and try to take a photo, and you can see, well, we don't really have anything. So something to note is in the preview and in the simulator, we can't really properly take a photo, but we can see that the UI does come up. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the simulator just to show you it also doesn't work there. Alrighty, here's our simulator, so you can see that we can still select the photo. If you do add custom photos to your simulator, you can grab them here. So if you're going on this iPhone 16, grab something from Google, you totally can. If we do the take photo, you can see that we do have the functionality of the camera, right? We can like select if it flashes on and off, but if we go ahead and press the photo button, nothing happens. So you will need to use a real phone to test this. Let's go ahead and test that out, and then I'll show you how to add a placeholder. All right, we can see that we have my iPhone showing up. So if I were to go to take a photo here, we would get the kind of permissions that we need. So camera, we need to take photos to add to our apps. That's what we added in our info. So if we go ahead and allow it, you can see that we can take a photo and take a picture of good old bold and brash on my wall over there. You can use this photo, and now it's being displayed. We can also select photos, see that we have all the different pictures of cats here. So I'm going to select this one. We can see that it does update and replace the image. So if you want to test out in your preview and you don't have a camera to test on, just to make sure that the photos work, what I would suggest doing is we can just delete this text here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do hashtag if, and then we're going to do capital debug. And here's where we're going to put our code. So we're going to add an image. And let's go ahead and actually add one to our assets catalog. So I'm going to go to my assets, and I'm going to add this Memoji laptop here. I'm just going to rename it to placeholder image with capital I. If we go back to our content view, under our image, let's go ahead and have placeholder image. And then, you know what, let's work smarter, not harder. And let's paste all of our kind of sizings. And then we'll do hashtag end if in one word. So now our preview should load, and we can see that we kind of have this sample image for us here. So if you wanted to test it with other photos, feel free to do so. But this will allow you to kind of test and see what those images look like, or you can use the photo library and test within there as well. Alrighty, and that's it. Today we learned how to use the image picker and use the photo library, as well as access the device's camera. You can kind of do what you want with these photos. If you want to upload this to somebody's profile picture, add it to things like a journal entry, totally up to you. I would really recommend creating a copy of this camera view just so you can import it to other projects later, because it is a doozy to type out every single time. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, dream big, code bigger, and we'll see you in the next one.